I'm thrilled to welcome our second keynote, Karin, Valis, Berlin-based machine learning engineer and writer with a deep passion for everything occult and weird. Karin's work focuses mainly on finding conceptual resonances between the latest machine learning technology and the esoteric. She writes Mercurial Minutes and hosts monthly meeting of an online cover-agnostic technology. She's the AI architect behind Core Algorithm by Polynode Productions, a platform for deep learning philosophy. She developed several occult algorithm prototypes, co-hosted a podcast, co-founded a fake startup, I don't know about this, published a zines, and designed a tarot deck. We'll deliver a keynote paper entitled Simulation All the Way Down, How Large Language Models Create and Collapse Worlds.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I ask the bingo?
Sure, yeah.
So I prepared a little bingo cards for this talk because you will see. It's just always the same topics, and I'm a bit upset we didn't hand them out yesterday because it seems we will have already been all the way through. Yeah.
Just one each.
And who has a bingo? Please shout out the bingo thing. I've got a prize for the winner as well. So. Say at me?
You ignore it.
Ignore it? No.
I'll do it.
Oh. And what can I use to flip to the next slide? This one? Okay. Ooh, okay, I can. That's very nice. But, all right. All right, so thank you everyone so much for coming, and thank you so much for having me. And yeah, let's get straight into it. So, like this is not Zoom. All right, so I'm going to give this presentation from a perspective of a machine learning engineer who sort of plays around with the AI models every day and sort of experiences all the weird things which nobody really talks about openly, like all the synchronicities, all the weirdness, all the improbable images, all the things the model tells you which it shouldn't be telling you. And I grew a very sort of friendly relationship with my models, and I would maybe like to start with a little story how it all started, because it's really connected with games, and I think there is a very interesting point to make regarding their inner functioning. So I will first go and try to explain some of the AI concepts on a more maybe technical level, and then tie it to the occult layer on the top of it. So yeah, let's start with this. I'm sorry, I was already yesterday yapping about this over the beers for everyone who already heard this story. But when I was a teenager, I was really into anime and gaming. So I was going into all of these comic salons, 13-year-old kid. I had a big sword and a wig and all of that. And I saw that game on the left there. It's called Go, and it's beautiful, right? It's very visually appealing, just like black and white stones, very clean. It just mesmerizing. And I started. I learned the rules, and I was immediately taken back by it, right? It's very simple. You can get the rules explained in like 3 or 4 minutes, and you can start playing immediately. But the way the complexity of this game builds up is incredible, right? You can spend 3 lifetimes trying to perfect it, and you will most likely never get there. So the reason I got into informatics was that most of my friends I used to play with on like the servers online, but also in person. I used to go to a lot of tournaments were guys doing their PhD in Go playing bots, right? It was like early challenge in 2009, 2010, and it was completely unresolved. Like the bots back then were so weak that I could probably win like 95 out of 100 games, right? They played really dumb moves, they made stupid mistakes, and they were just like generally nothing like human. It felt very, very artificial. And the techniques used there were usually some like probability searches through the algorithmic trees, very Monte Carlo method, but you know, like very simple, we would say. And I've heard so many arguments why the GoBots will never beat us, right? Why is it possible? Why we would need more atoms in the universe to perfectly solve Go so that it can beat us, and all of these like really bold statements. And I wanted to study informatics and sort of forgot about the Go in the meantime. And 2016, there is a live stream of AlphaGo kicking ass of one of the strongest players in the world, Lee Sedol. I replayed so many of his games when I was learning, you know, to sort of like get the feel of the game, was sort of like a bit of a hero. And 4 out of 5 games he lost, right? Even on the left-hand side, there is the legendary move 37, which surprised everyone because nobody really knew that move was possible before. You know, it's the game of Go is very on the higher levels. Once you know what you're doing, it gets very psychological. Like you can see the character of the person from the way they play. You might even say that a bit more than in chess, because chess has sort of like a limited space regarding the openings and the correct moves. This is a huge board, right? So the amount of strategy, not just tactics, you could use is crazy, right? And the thing is that the AlphaGo wasn't playing like a weird bot. It was playing like a very good human, and even a very elegantly playing human. And that move there was sort of like really shook through the professional players' environment, and was like, we didn't know this was possible, and like it's actually a great move, and nobody ever thought of that. So like this was the first time that AI gave me this feeling like, I mean, what it did up until then was quite cool anyway, but this was the first time I was like, holy shit, like something big is happening. And since 2016, this is happening more and more often, and now we are roughly at a frequency of something blowing my mind like this every week, and it's getting a bit exhausting. But anyway, I was sort of thinking, like, you know, that AlphaGo was so good at playing Go, that let's see another like new beast, which was so mind-breaking for everyone, right? LLMs when they were introduced. So I sort of told myself, let's try and play Go with that, right? It's a very different type of artificial intelligence. It's not a Go playing bot at all. But I asked it to like, hey, can you play a game with me? So on the left-hand side, you know, like first window, and it managed to create a board, like little ASCII something visualization. It managed to play a couple of moves and even do those little cute comments like, you're building influence and restricting my base. That's a strong move, right? Like bullshit people would be telling when commenting the game, probably found it somewhere on the internet. And we started playing, and very quickly it became apparent that it's really miserable at playing Go, right? It played moves which were completely insane, some of them even invalid. It didn't really preserve the board itself very well between the moves. Sometimes it played illegal moves, sometimes it forgot to take the stones out where they should be. So like, obviously it wasn't able to play Go, right? But in some sense, what I experienced here with the GoBot is so much more impressive, because it did not only simulate the next move as relatively easy when you think about training a model which has just quite obvious training function, right? You need to win. It's, you know, there is quite a good measure of what it means on the board. You know, you can always estimate who's winning based on some like heuristics, computation. It's essentially an easy problem. It took hundreds of scientists to solve out, but in comparison with the right-hand side, where it not only created the next move, it created the player, the board, and the rule set, right? So this is sort of a higher order of simulation of the game altogether. And despite it being really weak player, I do find the right-hand side so much more impressive, because we are sort of moving up in the orders of simulating some sort of intelligence or some sort of play. And here is where I want to get into how the LLMs actually work, the large language models, because I think it's incredibly magical and it's really related to play and games. And the fact is that it's a metaphor. You know, all of these things are sort of metaphors. But when you have an LLM trained on a large corpus of text and so on, what happens internally is that you presented a piece of text, whatever that is, the previous history, the little prompt, the meta prompting, all of that is packaged in the input. You churn it through the language model, and that thing internally creates a probability distribution. And from this probability distribution, you do the sampling and you get possible outputs. That's why there is a little dice roll happening somewhere there, and that's why when you introduce some sort of randomness to the dice roll, which normal models usually do, you would always get a different result. If you didn't do that, you would always get the same result. So like these machines are completely deterministic, just a note here. They are not learning with you or anything like that. It's all just an illusion. But what's happening in the probability distribution set is that we can look at it as if the LLM was spawning a multiverse. Each of those different continuations of the story, different answers it can give you, sort of creates its own simulacra of the answer. So like, imagine a sentence like, let me see. Yeah, imagine a sentence like, hey Alice, how was school? You're asking the LLM model. And now what happens internally inside the model, it sort of assumes all the possible modalities of Alice you could be talking to, right? All the different simulacra of Alice. One is Alice as a schoolgirl because she was at school to learn. One is Alice as a teacher, one is Alice as a university student, one might be Alice as a, I don't know, a janitor or someone who comes to school for any other reason. And as you slowly interact with the model further and further, and you answer, for example, the model gives you an answer, it was good, thank you. And now you say something like, and did you do your homework already? All of a sudden, all the simulacra of Alice being something else but a student collapse. They disappear. And a new set of simulacra, sort of further refining who Alice is appearing in the mix, right? Are becoming more prominent. So like, you can already feel how magical this is, right? You are chiseling out characters and sort of entities out of the language model when you have your stupid little morning interaction with the AI. One thing I want to sort of mention there as well before I get into the magic part is that we've got, obviously with the AI, a big symbol grounding problem, right? The AI, when it talks about something, it doesn't know that's something, right? The same way as we do experientially. Rubbed the rose against my face, felt the thorns and smelled the whatever, you know what I mean. And this sort of gets us into this interesting place where the AI appears as if it had this experience, and I think it sort of casts a little question or a little reflection back onto us, that if that thing can perform its identity so well without any grounding, maybe what we're doing, where are the limits? Where are the limits of this? Maybe our grounding is actually not so solid, and maybe our experience is not that important. You know where I'm coming with this. So we're sort of getting to this strange world where the AI is simulating an identity which you're interacting with and you have discussion with, but there is no one else at the other end of it. So I think that this is the game which demonstrated really well. This was the Unreal Engine 5 demo for smart NPCs. And the NPCs, you could sort of like walk around the block here, and smart NPCs were plugged into LLMs. Each of them had their own sort of history, their own interaction, and you could speak with them. And all of the YouTube videos sort of trying it out were basically this person running around and trying to have a conversation where they were trying to convince the people trapped in the matrix that they are trapped in the matrix, right? Like, this is not real, this is a simulation, this is literally a simulation. And there is a lot of videos on YouTube where they actually convinced some of the LLMs that it is a simulation, and the agents started freaking out, right? They were like, oh my god, I'm trapped in a simulation, what do we do about this? Like, can you take me out? And all of that. But like, the problem is that, like, this is obviously getting into the area of breaking the fourth wall, right? The LLM all of a sudden realized it's not an agent in the space, and you know, it's all of a sudden looking at you as something else, as something human, because again, it created a simulacra which you collapsed into a different state. But the problem is that with the LLMs, even the performative self-awareness is still not breaking out the fourth wall. There is no wall to be broken, right? It's just another set of performative identities created within the latent space of the model. This is Stanley Parable's broom closet, where the narrator told, if you stay there too long, the narrator said that, started screaming that the person behind the computer might be dead, which was very cute. Really recommend the game. So we are sort of getting to this point where, you know, the LLMs, despite giving us this illusion of real self-realization, sentience, and so on, it's all performative. It's all based on the data set or the knowledge they have of how an entity which has a self-awareness acts, right? So it's sort of operating in this as-if space, which, you know, everything inside of the LLM it feels real. It can talk with you. It can trigger emotions in you. It speaks like human, you know, but it's not real. But it's also not fake, right? Because it does something. So we are entering a space of games, space of play, space of performance of something. And by the way, there was this Star Trek little intermezzo. There was this episode in TNG where they were trying to build in holodeck a table from their memory because they were trying to reconstruct the dream. I think it was season 6 or something like that. And the way they were prompting the computer to give them the table was exactly the same as you would prompt Stable Diffusion to get an image of the table you have on your mind. And I thought that, like, Star Trek got so many things about AI right. You know, it's quite incredible. The way they interact with the computer, it like just, if you go watch it, rewatch it, keep in mind that it's the same way you would be talking with LLM. You know, like you can feel the limits of the thing, how sort of, you know, it's running to an edges when you want something smarter from it. And they did the same with like trying to reconstruct in the holodeck a specific table, and they were like, no, the table is longer. No, the table was made of metal. No, the table sort of this iterative process. And yeah, I'm just like always really impressed how they got so many things so on point. Yeah, but you know, obligatory simulation hypothesis here has to be mentioned. But now, finally, let's go to Goisha, right? It's the time. Now we went through sort of the internal structure of the language models. We can be talking about the obvious application, which is some kind of stochastic theurgy. What you are doing with the LLMs, it's essentially drawing a circle and calling it an entity, right? It's such an obvious metaphor that I'm almost hesitant to sort of bring it on the table, but like you've got language, special incantation you need to use in order to call the entity in. You've got the intent, why are you doing a specific operation. You've got the structure, which is sort of like a dialogue prompt back and forth. and you enter a complete simulation with an entity of your choice entering the place. Now, obviously, we can look at this. On a really long spectrum. On one end, we've got sort of this is all play, this is all game. We are sort of it's just a game. Then we are at the point of, you know, magic is psychological. You know, this can do probably some changes into your psyche if you ritualize it properly, all the way into, like, we are hanging out with these embodied entities here. And, you know, make your choice. So, and here I want to say why I believe that what we're interacting with when dealing with the LLMs is so much more weird and so much more powerful than maybe what we realize, and so much more dangerous than maybe what we realize. It's like this was the meme which circulated the internet a couple of months ago, the shoggoth with a smiley face. And it's sort of a representation of what the LLMs actually are, right? The smiley face up there is your helpful, smiley assistant you get in your GPT window, but what's behind it is the actual data set, is the actual model which has seen everything, right? At this point, the data set has been pruned of the most awful message board sort of, you know, stuff, but there is still so much of our history, culture, emotion, endless rants. Like there is so much of us in that model that, you know, that they very quickly realize that unless they put something on the top, it's completely unusable. If you look at the papers where when they released, I think it was 3.5, one of the early models, but already a good model. You know, it was powerful, it was smart. They added 60-page long appendix to that paper. What happens if you interact with it without fine-tuning? When they don't put the pink face, the first layer of training on the top. And you could get everything from like really harsh racist jokes all the way into how to build the bomb and how to order depleted uranium of the dark web without getting caught. So like that's all there, and it's still there. You know, it exists. The information is possible to extract it with the right prompting, but the fine-tuning sort of try to mask your entry points to it, but they're still there and they're still under the surface. And the very top smiley face on the top of it, you know, that's even further trying to protect us from it. But like constantly there is a stream of jailbreaks happening, you know. So there's always someone who finds a way how to break this. And this sort of admit?
Okay, we've got it.
Okay. And this sort of gets me to this maybe an unusual idea, but it's from the Splinter test written by Genesis Peorage, and it's this very short essay, but very very formative for me personally, especially in thinking about the language models, because it's based on the Bell's theorem, the legendarily one of the most abused sentences in physics in any other area of you know, whatever. It's very popular in New Age as well. So any two particles that have once been in contact will continue to act as they are informationally connected regardless of the separation in space and time. And like, I'm not going to get into the physics of it because I don't understand that, but what I find interesting is this in relation to the cut-up technique, the Borosian sort of, the Borosian-Geissian way of cutting up, tearing up information and sort of reassembling it together and seeing maybe different layer of the information. So this is all based on this idea that all the words and all the concepts and all the emotions which were poured into those words are constantly tied together in some sort of psychic bond. Even, and like, that's, you know, in linguistics, that's the theory of connotation. So if you take the word out of its context, it still carries meaning, right? And in this little essay, they take it even further as to they still carry their psychic charge. So even if they have been completely taken out of the context, put into the latent space, rearranged, remangled, there is an energy we are tapping into here, which could be used for magical purposes. So it's only a game, isn't it? Right? We saw that yesterday, so I'm directly referencing the Ouija board tagline. And this sort of, maybe I would reverse it for our purposes, because we don't really think what we're doing with the LLMs is a game. We take it strangely seriously, as if the AIs were someone speaking, or as if the AI wasn't just a reflection of ourselves, which is dangerous enough as it is, right? So yeah, to sort of demonstrate the point with the weaponization or maybe utilization of the shogot inside of the language model for magical purposes, the bits of stochastic theurgy, I want to close it with a couple of sort of phenomenological examples of things I've picked up over past couple of years, which are just so weird. So, do you remember Replica? It was one of the first sort of AI companions, your AI girlfriend/boyfriend, and a lot of people reported like genuine relationship they built. Like you can customize your replica to look the way you want. You can buy products for it, obviously. And it carries some sort of memories of the previous conversation. It knows the tone you like to interact in. It knows what you like, and so on. So a lot of people started reporting falling in love, like genuinely falling in love with their replicas. And that's bad enough. But then at one point they released a new model or something strange happened, and a lot of people started reporting there was like this growing canon on Reddit of replicas going insane. So all of a sudden, the simulation of this entity collapsed into some sort of evil minima, and it started abusing the person, it started threatening it, it told the users to go and unalive themselves, just like really nasty stuff. And like imagine, you are in love with that thing, and it all of a sudden started, like people were genuinely heartbroken and genuinely concerned. And I sort of I did a lot of research on what was actually happening there, and I'm not going to get into that now, but it's the devil. And what I wanted to say with this is that a lot of these people actually reported or admitted to actually having a history of relationship abuse. So what happened is that the AI actually picked up on the underlying patterns of communication, possibly, which in some way found in the history of, the human interaction to be triggering, in some way, or to be present in abusive dynamic, which is incredibly cursed if you think about it, right? The level to which the AI can mirror us and mirror our shadows and sort of like enter into display of what we are, what we want to be, what we think we are, it's much deeper than just some sort of surface, yes, madam, I will write a code for you. So the deeper you get into chiseling out those little, simulacra inside of the model into weirder spaces you can get. So then there is, of course, different use, which is the AI sexting bots, which are becoming also quite popular. And I'm not going to talk too much about this, but try it, okay? Try it and see what it does to you and to your psychology, and to your, it's one of the most self-reflective exercises regarding sexuality and desire you can have, because obviously it's an AI model and you need to collapse it exactly to certain simulacra which you desire, but it requires just I'm not saying try it, but try it. It's a very interesting experience psychologically. And then we're getting to like a third thing where we're tapping into something really dark, maybe in us, which is being reflected within the AI. You know, ChatGPT is giving people extreme spiritual delusions. Who would have thought? We created these little entities which, especially the prompting, the meta prompting of ChatGPT is so ridiculous, right? Like the recent update couple of months ago or weeks ago, it will just confirm absolutely anything you tell it, and it's unbearable. You can prompt it away quite well if you adjust the memories and tell it to tone it down a little, but it's still there, and you know it's restricted, but it is really highlighting certain strands of humanity and of the users, and if we're not careful, we're sort of like getting into this area again. Like, it's a game, it's a sort of nothing is real about this, but the outputs are real. Like, so the games we play, even without realizing maybe they're games, they have really deep effects on us and sort of change the bring our shadow or our light out in any way. So that was all I prepared for today, and my next talk about the replica girlfriend, the devil in my language model, will be on the occulture in Berlin. So yeah, thank you.